Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water, water, keep a moving
and we'd like to welcome you to Water Talk, brought to you by our friends at Water Pros. 303-862-5554 is the number. We're going to start out telling you, call now. Don't even wait to hear all about the show. Call now for your free in-home water test. 303-862-5554. You want to call now for your water test while we still have enough water to do a test. That's going to be our topic today.
Yes, no, listen.
Paul the Waterman. What's
serious,
up?
We got a really serious situation here.
Serious.
I'm not even kidding you. This is a true alert issue. Last week, we had a customer call, very upset. His water was brown, mad as all could be. So
See, in Texas we'd say mad as all get out.
Well, he was. So I go over to his house Friday, and he got there as quick as I could. Right after the show, got in and just sped right out there. And what's happening is they're running out of water. The well is running dry.
Oh, so this was a well water customer.
Well water customer, yep. And so when they use water to clean and laundry and doing the dishwasher at the same time, running water to, mop the floors, then what would happen is they would tax their well water where it would get so low that they'd get dirty, brown, dusty, sediment-filled water. But then after, shutting the water off and letting it recover for an hour or so, then it fills back up and it's crystal clear clean. So
now, what had you installed for this customer?
So we put in a dual tank water softener and a neutralizer. So when I got there, the water was tested 100% soft. The neutralizer elevated the pH. Everything was functioning. It was nice and clear. And based upon the evidence and the conversation, it was clear to me they're running out of water, and that's a common problem that we're running into. Started last year with customers off of Castle Rock off of Wolfensberger Road. Mm-hmm. And then, he lives in Elizabeth. But, gosh, if you go to, Powhatan Road to County Line Road to Delbert Road, they're going to have, it's got to be several hundred homes. I mean, they're just clearing the land. It's going to be insane. Then when you go to those new subdivisions in Elbert County, go down Delbert Road, there's like communities are popping up. Pretty soon you're going to see grocery stores out that far. I mean, It's just okay. So the water usage, they're tapping into these aquifers, and water usage and water management. I wonder if they really take the calculation and they really try to figure out how much water they have and what the water usage is going to be, because they're all going to put water districts. Water districts, believe it or not, we have a customer that's in unincorporated Arapahoe County. They have well water in their own septic, but they got a letter from their water district that's threatening them that if your water isn't safe to drink, we're going to force you to tap into the city water tap. So, I told the customer we tested it. It's hard water, but it's safe to drink, and just make sure they use the EPA standards. But clearly, I can't believe it. I can't talk here. In this letter, they basically said that if they couldn't afford to pay for it, they were going to put a mechanics lien on their house to cover the tap fee. So my first thought was, this can't be real. How can you force somebody that's on well water in their own septic to tap into city water? It's amazing to me. So back to this original issue. So if you go to Google and Google AI and we ask the question, are the aquifers in danger of running out of water in the Denver metro area? And first thing it says, yes, several aquifers in Denver metro area are in danger of long-term depletion. Now, I didn't realize this, but everybody talks about tapping into the upper Dawson, the lower Dawson, the Dawson aquifer, the Denver and Arapahoe and Laramie/Fox Hill aquifers. I didn't realize that these were non-renewable resources.
Okay.
That water pulled from these deep layers can be thousands of years old and they do not recharge quickly enough to keep up with human use.
Right.
So, to me, I find that very fascinating. So what that means is this water is basically in one big underground rock cavern or cave, right? So, thanks to our buddy Mark Whitlatch, we learned, and in our own research, we've learned that some utilities like Aurora Water are taking their wastewater from their water treatment plant and dumping it into these aquifers.
Wow. And, I mean, do you know how many aquifers there are in Colorado?
There's seven principal aquifer systems recognized by the USGS. This includes the High Plains, Denver Basin, the St. Louis Valley, and then the South Platte, Arkansas. I can't pronounce this word. The Gunnison Creek and the Leadville Limestone Aquifer.
Wow.
So here's a question.
And there's no telling where all those go to.
Well, so here's the thing that learning. What I love about doing this show is, you know, it's kind of like learning on the job when we do our research like this to bring it to folks' attention. But if you're in an aquifer that's non-referable, here's my question to you. It's almost like fracking in a way, or removing oil. When you remove so much water, what's going to happen to that void?
Right.
You know, are we going to get increased seismic activity? And so so here's something to think about. What if people are blaming fracking for water quality changes? What if it's just the fact of overuse and they're depleting these aquifers to the point, and if they don't recover, you've got this void where clearly air can get in, right? I mean, if you're pulling something out, you know, and you got these, you know, the best analogy I remember hearing was the guy from Douglas County. You know, we read it from the Colorado Sun. It was a couple of years ago. He used the analogy: think of a big bathtub of water, and you got so many straws that are pulling all this water out.
Right.
Okay. So, use that scenario. That's what I wonder. What if it's not the fracking that's doing this, but it's basically the overuse?
Yeah. Here it says, just to kind of educate us all on aquifers, the principal aquifers, the key systems supplying water include the High Plains Ogallala Aquifer in the east and the Denver Basin Aquifer, which consists of four main layers, as Paul mentioned, the Dawson, Denver, Arapahoe, and the Laramie Fox Hills Aquifer. The Denver Basin, crucial for the Front Range. It provides a massive layered source of water. Regional diversity, the state is divided into major groundwater areas, including alluvial aquifers along major river basins like the South Platte, the Arkansas, the Rio Grande. There's some designated basins. There's 8 designated groundwater basins in eastern Colorado, managed separately due to limited surface water availability. And lastly here, while 7 main systems are often cited for regional planning, Colorado has dozens of distinct water-bearing geologic formations, aquifers utilized for municipal, agricultural, and domestic needs. Paul, like you say, you look at all that building out there, and you look at the water. This is why, and we have tried to get some water treatment facilities on. They tend to want to make just a statement and not want to be interviewed, which I think I know why.
Right.
Okay. But you wonder, I mean, with all the new building and all the new, that's going to be needed here, how in the world can the plants that are in place now be able to purify, and air quotes there, all that water?
Well, they can't. Yeah. And here's the other concern. So Douglas County, Highlands Ranch, Castle Rock, and Parker, okay, they have historically relied on heavily on these aquifers, and some wells have even seen the water drop by 30 feet per year. Some also report that local providers report that some wells are now producing significantly less water. For example, if you could get 100 gallons per minute down to just 40 gallons per minute. Now, 100 gallons per minute is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you're down to 40 gallons per minute, and that's it's a 60% drop in a sense. And my question is, if the growth, go out past Castle Rock before you get to Monument, past the dealerships there, they got a Chevy dealership and a Jeep dealership.
Right.
Okay. Just past there on the west side of the highway, they're going to build another huge subdivision. I mean, they're building the bridge, right, that's connecting, those proposed subdivisions. How many homes are going to be there? So the question is, everybody in a sense is at a reusable water state. But when these aquifers run dry, and these are aquifers that are non-replenishable, that's news to me. So what that means is once it's empty, it's empty.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that they can really refill them then is taking the wastewater and dumping it back in. So what's that mean? Here's something else to think about, to follow. There was a story on Fox News website that sharks in the Bahamas are testing positive for pharmaceuticals.
Really?
Pharmaceuticals. Wow. So what that means is that this contamination that we've been talking about is truly global. It's all over the world. So if sharks are testing positive for pharmaceuticals, for cocaine, ibuprofen.
Well, they don't hurt any.
Right?
They don't have any aches or pains.
Well, that's what so maybe, but when you get to that contamination level where it's testing in sharks, that what it means, I guess, God, is that this contamination problem isn't a dilution problem, isn't something where these medications just disappear. It means it's a long-lasting.
Right, and here's just a little bit on that. A 2026 study in the Bahamas found that nearly 1/3 of 85 sharks tested included Caribbean reef, nurse, and lemon sharks. Man, who knew?
Who knew lemon sharks?
Yeah. Had detectable levels of human. Now, I wonder if that means they ate the human.
Well, that's possible.
Of human pharmaceuticals. Now, this one gets me. And illicit drugs.
So
in their blood. The study found caffeine. So they ate somebody early in the morning after they had their coffee. They had caffeine, over-the-counter painkillers, acetaminophen, and cocaine in the blood of 28 sharks.
So this basically tells us that it absolutely is a bioaccumulation. This is a global issue. So these contaminants are real. And when you're reaching to the Bahamas, the body of water, the ocean is a massive body of water. So what that means is that it's contamination all over the globe.
Mm-hmm.
So on a side note, with this mitigation recovery we mentioned, to prevent these aquifers from running out, metro area water providers are shifting their strategies. And so aquifer storage and recovery, that's ARS, providers like Centennial Water now recharge the aquifers by pumping treated surface water back underground during wet years to store it for future droughts. So they're dumping basically the wastewater into these aquifers. So that means that folks that are on well water thinking that they're immune from the problem water of municipalities, they're not. They're drinking somebody else's wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what that says.
Sure.
And we've been mentioning that, for, the last 4 months.
And, you say, okay, well, that's over in the Bahamas. How about Florida? Here it says, previous studies found pharmaceuticals in sharks and rays in Florida. So
I can't imagine what's off the coast of New York because
there are probably more cocaine.
Well,
sharks
they dump
there.
because some of those eastern seaboard cities dump their sewage right into the ocean. South Metro Water Supply Authority has reduced the region's reliance on non-renewable groundwater from nearly 100% in the early 2000s to about 22% in 2020. So if you take wastewater and you're dumping it back in to fill the aquifers, that's where people need to know this. And then and everybody that's on well water should get a complete package, a water test package to see. And they're not going to test for pharmaceuticals. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. That Denver basin you were looking at, and I realize we're spending some time on this, but I think it's good for all of us to know, because I didn't know this, but the Denver basin aquifer is 6,700 square mile, non-renewable, just as you said, groundwater system beneath Colorado's Front Range, extending from Greeley to Colorado Springs. It consists of the 4 stacked bedrock aquifers, just like Paul said right at the beginning of the show, the Dawson, Denver, Arapahoe, and Laramie Fox Hills, containing ancient water. I'm not sure what that would mean. We'll look that up. But this finite resource is being depleted faster than it recharges, prompting water management concerns for rapidly growing areas, what we've just talked about, Castle Rock and Parker. I mean, it's all right there.
So basically, in a sense, Scott, something that I thought, just using common sense, that we were there, but this proves that, my thought process was correct, is, everybody's in a reusable state. This is non-sustainable. There's not an unlimited, use of water. And with all this growth and poor water management, we're in a desert. And so, how silly am I to try to grow fruit trees that grow like weeds back home in Illinois? I'm trying to grow peaches and apples and pear trees, and we're in a desert. Mm-hmm. And the only trees that really thrive are natural native pine trees, right? I mean, that a couple years ago, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. We had a big afternoon hailstorm, and all the leaves in their trees are just getting destroyed, but the pine trees just standing tall. Yeah. Because the pine needles are thin, and the hail doesn't... Sure. It doesn't beat them up. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like, who's that comedian that hands out, here's your sign, right? Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take to basically get everybody to tell us the real truth about water quality. And the reason why I say that, the EPA has that unregulated list of contaminants. We have a bunch of pharmaceuticals in the water supply. They're not telling us. We have viruses, bacteria. We have funguses in the water supply. They're not telling us. But at some point, when will they? Because if I'm in reusable water and all that medication and illicit drugs and hormones are in the oceans, that means that every single waterway here in the United States, from the Great Lakes to the rivers, has this contamination. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. It is Water Pros. Give them a call, 303-862-5554. Ask for your free in-home water test today. We got to hit a break. Back with Paul the Waterman right after this.
How much do you need to lower your monthly mortgage payment? $200, $300, $400 or more? As rates decline, take AIM, Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Over 24 years of saving Coloradans money. Low rates, lower payments, less costs. What makes us different is we listen. As an independent mortgage broker, we shop the top lenders to save you the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Want to purchase your next home? You can't qualify unless you sell your current home? Let us show you how to get the down payment out of your current home, qualify for the new one, and then sell yours for the most. Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. So you want to buy a home. Let us show you loans that can save you money, low down payment, first-time home buyer specials, fixed rates in the 4s with buy-downs. Call for details, 720-895-0500, or apply now at aimortgage.net. That's Affordable Interest Mortgage, where it's all about you. Regulated by DORA and MLS 217147, Equal Credit Lender.
Looking to gear up for your next hunt, fishing trip, or camping adventure? Head to the Outdoorsman's Attic, Colorado's largest consignment store for hunting, fishing, and camping gear, located at 2650 West Hampden. Hey, this is Scott with Sportsman of Colorado Radio, and you'll find wall-to-wall outdoor gear to firearms and ammo. You'll find incredible selection at unbeatable prices, plus clothing over 90 days old is up to 50% off, so there's always great deals waiting. Whether you're upgrading gear or just getting started, started, the Outdoorsman's Attic is a must-stop. Mention Sportsman of Colorado for additional discounts. It's the Outdoorsman's Attic, where smart outdoorsmen shop. Tell them Scott sent you. It's 2650 West Hamden.
You're listening to 560 KLZ, your home station.
We are back. My name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman, Paul Dowding, owner of Water Pros. Once again, that phone number, 303-862-5554. If you're just joining us, we've been giving some education here on aquifers in our state. And, folks, it could get very serious. And Paul just mentioned early on, client called and thought there was a water problem with maybe some of the things, let's just be honest, that Paul had done, and then found out it's dirt.
Right,
yeah.
They were blaming our filtration system. He was very angry about it. This isn't working. It's like, sending.
How do you say it?
Exactly. This isn't working. I'm mad. He was going to call. He was going to call you and complain.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I was gonna. I told him to behave, or I'd have Scott come and talk to him. Right. So okay. So when you get there, we get to this house.
So let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
So this is not just a well water customer problem running low on water. This could happen with all of us, correct?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is going to happen to all of us. And so everybody that's unwell is not immune to this issue. We have a huge drought. We have water. The mountains are growing crazy. Silverthorne is huge. The development, the housing, pretty soon, look at all the highway, construction they're doing to try to alleviate the mountain traffic, on I-70. So I really think this is something that, isn't going to go away, but we have to have a legitimate issue. So let's pick Las Vegas. You know how Lake Mead, I worked in Las Vegas as a young man in water treatment in the 90s, and Lake Mead was a popular, would go out and rent a boat But, and then you see in photographs and how the lake has dropped, it's just tremendous. The growth in Las Vegas couldn't sustain it, and California and all these other, neighboring, communities outside of Las Vegas. What are they trying to do in Vegas? They're taking a desert and they're trying to plant palm trees and grass and, turn it into something that it's not naturally designed for. Mm-hmm. So we don't get the moisture. And then California, and they're nutsy cuckoo, we found out that they don't store water. All the water resources that they could store and handle their water needs, they let it flow right back to the ocean. So then they want to draw, they're drawing it from Lake Mead. It's just common sense isn't there. Well, here in Colorado, again, this is really a desert. It truly is. And we have the communities up north. There's natural salt deposits where a lot of the well water is high in sodium content. Well, think about it. Millions of years ago, the oceans ran right through this state, and that's why you have the Great Salt Lake, because as it receded, the Salt Lake state, developed. But so high sodium deposits. So a lot of the well water out east, you have to have, filtration system. You can't grow anything with it because of the high sodium content. That's why, they have the sodium absorption ratio as part of the well water test. Colorado State University is one that really, helps with water testing with farmers and ranchers up north. But, they rely on information that they get from Canada. So, yeah, and so sodium absorption ratio is completely different than what, it is safe for animals to drink. And one of the things, with animals and horses, they have a higher tolerate, of sodium content. So you can't use the sodium absorption ratio as the same factor, for cattle and horses. That's completely different. But back here with this drought and the lack of snowpack, that we have, we're not going to have a huge spring runoff. We're not going to worry about flash flooding this year. Mm-hmm. But, as these communities grow and they're tapping into in the current water usage, what's happened right now, I know off of Whippensburger Road, because I work with the builder, there's a lot of multi-million-dollar homes that have, landscaping and they're permitting to use, 20,000 gallons of water a day in irrigation, and I think that's going to have to change. I don't think they have it.
Sure.
And so I didn't realize that these aquifers that they're pulling for, especially the Dawson, everybody talks about that. I'm up with the upper Dawson. Well, one of the things I thought, and it proves to be right, is that there's no way that the water flows downhill to fill up these aquifers. So how are these aquifers, and they're traveling basically north to south. So that means then is that, those aquifers were filled with water, and if they're not replenished, why wasn't that even thought of? Because, and here's why I say this. Arapahoe County, you used to get one permit, a well, if it was good or bad, you had to live with it. Then they changed and they allowed multiple ports to, drill another well. So I wonder if that's going to change. And, I tell people, well drillers, especially builders, you can't guarantee the quality of water. You have to let people know this is what you're getting into. And the reason why they probably don't do that is because then with people, second guess moving out to a rural area and have your own well.
Mm-hmm.
I asked a question in the, reusable water. What does that mean for the Denver metro area? And it says in the Denver metro area, reusable water, also called recycled or reclaimed water, refers to a strategy of treating wastewater to highly safe standards so it can be used a second time rather than discharging it to the rivers. So the question is that what's safe standard? Chlorinating the heck out of it? They're not going to remove the pharmaceuticals and the chemical contamination because it's clearly the waste treatment plant does not remove those contaminations because it's getting into the oceans, right? So if it's getting into the oceans, then you have to rely, globally. There's other, in Europe and Asia, Africa, you have these, developing nations that, in big nations like, China, for example, do they really care what water they're throwing back in the ocean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really endless of how bad this could get. Just if again, we focus on Colorado, just how bad it could get here over these next several months and year.
The current cornerstone of the Denver One Water Plan, which seeks to stretch existing supplies to meet the needs of a growing population without diverting more water from mountains or plumbing or pumping aquifers, is reusable water. A couple years ago, I remember watching 9 News, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he was from, Denver Water, and that's exactly what he was touting is reusable water. That's the key, reusable water. So we recycle it. So with the sticky, issue is the dirty water from a water treatment plant. They've got to pump that somewhere. So if they're pumping it back into the ground or back into the aquifers or back into the reservoirs, you're reusing it, you're reusing it again, but the concentration levels, or like Castle Rock, you're going to chlorinate the heck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But chlorine basically is a sterilizer to the point where it doesn't kill viruses and bacteria. It sterilizes, the virus or bacteria. And did we know that viruses, the cold virus, pass through water supplies? I'm convinced of that. I mentioned this before, that's how COVID spread.
Right. There's over 16, I just happened to look this up, there's over 16,000 publicly owned wastewater treatment plants in the United States, which serve more than 75% of the population. Additionally, there's over 148,000 active public drinking water systems, including roughly 51,356 community water systems that provide water to approximately 300 million people. Wastewater facilities, there's between 14,000 and 16,000 of those, with estimates of 23,481 total facilities. Drinking water systems, approximately 155,000 total active public systems, including transient systems like campgrounds. Then, of course, it gets into septic stuff and things like that. But, man, the amount of chemicals and what that must cost municipalities, besides building the plant. Let's just take what it takes to run it, man.
A new regulation, check this out. This is emerging. It's called drinking reusable water. So they're going to give it a abbreviation of DREAM, RW. So while most current reuse is for irrigation, here in the metro area, they're going to go to direct potable reuse, treating wastewater until it's safe to drink. What's that standard? Then it says new regulations in 2023, Colorado became the first state in the nation to adopt formal rules for DPR, direct potable reuse, setting extremely high standards for multi-stage treatment and testing. Local leaders like Castle Rock already uses a reuse model where water is recaptured from the Plum Creek and purified to meet or exceed drinking water standards, making it one third of the town's supply. Aurora, I didn't realize this. Aurora, the Prairie Waters Project, uses natural and advanced purification to provide up to 10 million gallons of purified reuse water. Now, let me stop right there because I'm going to be very skeptical of the terms purified water when it comes from water treatment plants, because clearly Castle Rock, they issues with high chlorine content. People are complaining about it making them sick. Mm-hmm. It doesn't remove pharmaceuticals. Now, if you do a water filtration and you're using a chemical that basically coagulates the minerals and to pull them out of the water supply, where does that wastewater and all that coagulation go? Right back into the water, the water resources. Denver Water currently uses a high-tech system called Rufus at the administration building to recycle 100% of the building's wastewater for its own toilets and landscaping. I didn't know that. So the bacteria, the pharmaceutical contamination, what is happening, what have we learned in the last 2 years about human waste from waste treatment plants? Okay, they're called biosolids. So biosolids have all the contamination, high levels of PFAS. They give that away to farmers, and that's spread on the fields, and then the PFAS contamination gets into the crops, gets into the livestock. And so, that's something that they're not thinking about with the contamination that's in the human waste, and then the contamination that they say they're pulling out of the water. Where does that go?
Right.
They're not removing it. They're only basically passing it on to, and it gets into, our food chain because of the waste used as fertilizer for crops, and then the crops used to feed us and then feed the cattle or, the livestock.
Mm-hmm. Man, dim picture actually, isn't it? Unless you call Water Pros.
303-862-5554.
They can help you out, folks.
Absolutely.
You can take control of your water. All the doom and gloom we're talking about, 100% factual. And you know what? If you don't take care of it, nobody else is going to do it for you. So call today, 303-862-5554. Mention you heard Paul here on Water Talk, and they'll get you scheduled for your free in-home water test. We'll be right back.
Turn a normal day into an adventure on an e-bike. Hi, I'm Randy Caranci, founder of E-Bike of Colorado. E-bikes are a fun way to ride around town. Just try it. Pedal assist technology flattens the steepest hills. We have 14 major brands to choose from, and our expert staff will find you the perfect bike. Come take a free test ride at E-Bike of Colorado in downtown Louisville next to the historic grain elevator. Open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Learn more at ebikeofcolorado.com. Just try it.
Need new glasses fast? With Stack Optical's on-site lab, you'll get your prescription glasses in just 3 to 4 days. No long wait times. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and I've trusted my eye care to Allen Stack and Stack Optical for the last 15 years. Eye exams are only $69, and that should be a part of your physical checkups each year. For over 50 years, Denver has trusted this family-owned boutique eye care center for premium vision care, custom eyewear, and expert repairs. See the Stack Optical difference today. Call 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578 and tell them Scott sent you. Stack Optical. Since 1968, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
You're listening to KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. If this is your first time to join us, welcome. We are here every week at this time for Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, our exclusive water guy. He can fix you up. As you can tell, he knows water, he studies water, he eats, sleeps, and actually drinks water. That's the way the saying goes, right? He eats, sleeps, and drinks it, and that's true. Hey, we would be remiss if we did not mention this. A couple of days ago, April 1st. This is no April Fool's shirt. Charlie, which you hear his name every day on our show, John Rush Show, many others. Charlie is celebrating 30 years with Crawford Broadcasting.
That's amazing, 30 years.
30 years. And I would ask him to get on and say something, but I know he'll look at me and shake his head. No, he won't. So he is a real guy. He has been here 30 years, though. And Charlie is the one that makes the magic happen. Hey, doesn't take much to sit here and talk. But Charlie takes us in and out of breaks.
Puts it all together.
Puts all the segments together and truly, truly, truly makes it happen. I don't even know where. Well, I know where I'd be. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have someone like him. And really just not someone like him if I didn't have him. His experience and knowledge of radio and just how to do things. And, man, I mean, he'll give me advice still today, which I appreciate after all the years of being here. But I remember early on he helped me out and gave me a lot of good tips and different things. And it has been an absolute pleasure. And hopefully we got 13 more. I don't know if he wants to do this till he's 83 or not. But hopefully we got a lot more. So, Charlie, we'll look at the glass here personally and say congratulations and thank you for all you do. And, boy, you don't see that much with workers today, staying somewhere and just doing good and loving what they do.
Especially for 30 years.
And Charlie does, that's for sure. All right. Again, if you're just joining us, thank you. We are here all the time. If you ever have a question for us, we do have a text line, 720-201-8585. Shoot us a text. Maybe you're listening in an environment that you can't call in and ask Paul a question. Paul, you've got some stuff on YouTube you might want to mention.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, look up Paul the Waterman. You'll see my pretty picture up there. All our radio shows that we've done are put up in podcast form.
Right.
So you can check out, a lot of great information. So also, if you want to email me directly, I put this email together for folks listening to the show. Email me at paul@paulthewaterman.com. So that's dedicated, specifically.
Dedicated.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So
you'll send them back an 8x10 picture autograph from you?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Colorado Public Health and Environment has new. They're not really new. So in January of 2023, the Department of Public Health and Environment adopted updating drinking water standards to regulate water reuse. Okay, but on a side note, I'm not a fan currently of, Colorado's Department of Public Health and Environment, only because in 2024, the state lab got shut down by the EPA. So that means that a lot of these, from 2024, and it questions all this testing that they said that was done to make sure things were in compliant. Mm-hmm. And so when the lab gets shut down, I think at that point, then the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment really, should go to the lab, find out when they suspect that this testing was fudged, and start over. If any results that they're reacting on, any information that they're, that they use based upon a phony lab, because that's what it is. If a lab cheats, and why would a lab have to cheat? You got to ask that question. Why do that? And so I just, I think they should step up to the plate and basically, anything that the lab came back, any small water municipal community that, that's getting picked on because they say the water quality, doesn't meet standards, they should basically start all over. Mm-hmm. So it really bothered me because we used the state lab. I thought the state lab was a a third party, non-invested party you could use, you could trust. And when when you get results and find out that, the results, were to the point where the EPA shuts them down.
That doesn't build a lot of confidence.
No. And so, we use, now we've used, and I think everybody uses either Hazen Laboratories or Colorado Analytical. So but they've got procedures in place for reusable drinking water. I think the reusable drinking water, and they said, has to be highly purified. What does that mean, and what's that process? Based on sheer volume alone, what does that mean, and what's that process? And so Castle Rock claims that, they're purifying their water, and they claim, removing pharmaceuticals. And so what testing do they have to support that? And my question basically out of that is, why not be 1,000% transparent when you're going to make those claims?
Right. Now you got to wonder, what in the world are all the chemicals used in these water treatment facilities that they're pouring in there?
So so they're basically, you could do, if you did a whole house reverse osmosis, we do pre-treatment. We put in a water softener, okay? But some companies sell what they call a chemical feed, and they use this chemical that basically suspends or coagulates the hardness or the iron content to help it, pass through the membranes so the membranes don't get ruined. That's what this is all about, is reverse osmosis membranes are really sensitive. Large ones, small ones, they can't handle hardness or any iron content. So chemical feed is extremely expensive, up to like $500 a gallon on a residential system. So can you imagine how much money they're spending on a commercial system?
Right. And then when you think about, we've talked about before a few weeks back, I mean, it was all over this neighborhood up in Castle Rock, people talking about smelling chlorine and how their water smelled like a public swimming pool and all. So you got the chlorine, chloramine. Now, how do those differ, just those two?
So chlorine is a mixture of chlorine with ammonia, so that's a chlorine.
Okay.
So, when you're using, if you use a coagulant, you're using aluminum salts, powdered activated carbon and polymers are mixed to make particles stick together to be removed to ensure water clarity. Then you have to basically have stabilizers for pH. Soda ash is added. That's something else that I'm running into too. We're running into a lot of municipal water homes that have low pH. We went here in Aurora. There, 2 neighborhoods in Aurora that the water is acidic and it's affecting the anorods and the hot water heaters.
Really?
So acidic water is really common, but that's something that, water treatment, facilities, should probably pay more attention to, but they're supposed to be adding soda ash, which is sodium carbonate, or sodium hydroxide to adjust the pH to make the water less corrosive for pipes. I was at a house yesterday where we're trying to do an install inspection for a guy, and I pointed out to them, they have copper pipes, black greasy spots. Now, you see, it's like it's black grease on these copper pipes. If you touch it, it's all greasy, but it's because of the pH affecting in it. It's corrosive in the copper pipes, and it's eating it from the inside out. So when you get to that point where you see that black grease bubble, you're getting real close for having a pinhole leak there at that scenario. And so 9 times out of 10, in older homes, 2 things can happen. In older homes, Scott, think about, everything was copper. So what did they do in older homes? Everything was ground to the copper pipe.
Right.
Okay. When you break that connection, and you have an older home and you had to replace some pipe, and then you basically have a section of PEX pipe or a section of PVC pipe, whatever, you're breaking that connection, you're breaking that loop. Then that's when electrolysis can take over. So electrolysis in water can happen because the water is very acidic. The pH factor is below 7. Once it's below 7, it's aggressive water. There's also a Langner-Reisner index that's done that measures the total corrosivity of water in well water, municipal water. But then the other issue is you can have electric current that's going through the pipes, and then and that can create that. So, old phone lines. We don't use landlines anymore. Hardly anybody does.
Sure.
Okay. So, if you got a phone connection, what do they call those boxes where you plug in for your phone, the phone box, whatever. All right. Well, if you've got a wire that's grounded to a copper pipe in the wall, for example, And then, you're not using that phone line, but somehow, who is Questra? What is it now?
Dude, I have no
CenturyLink?
idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, do they even maintain those phone lines?
I know.
Everything basically is wireless now.
That's crazy. Hey, call Water Pros now. You got your free in-home water test. When we come back, I'm going to let Paul explain that a little bit, and then we're going to tell you about some product that Paul can install in your home to give you cool, clean water. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Scott Watley, and I want to take a moment to share something personal with you. I recently had cataract surgery performed by Dr. Robert Fish, and I couldn't be more pleased with the results. From the very first appointment, Dr. Fish made me feel completely at ease. He took the time to explain everything, answered all my questions, and guided me through the entire process. On surgery day, his professionalism and care were second to none. And let me tell you, the difference is incredible. Colors are brighter, my vision is sharper, and it's like looking at the world with brand new eyes. If you've been putting off cataract surgery, don't wait any longer. I can personally recommend Dr. Robert Fish. He truly gave me back my vision and my confidence. So take it from me, Scott Watley. Call Dr. Robert Fish today and see life more clearly. Call 303-730-0404. Colorado Eye Consultants, where clear vision begins.
Here's why you need personal injury attorney Kevin Flesh on your side. He understands the way the jury thinks. In the context of a personal injury case, you've been hurt by someone else's negligence. The idea is that you're going to try to recover so that you can get back to where you were just prior to that incident occurring. What that really means from a jurist perspective is that you're going to be asking them to award you money. So when we talk about fairness, we're talking about 6 people that you don't know. Those 6 people view the evidence and make a unanimous decision that will decide what the fair value is. When you're the one who's hurt, you have a good idea of what you think it's worth. The question is, can you persuade those other individuals whom you don't know and were witnesses to believe that's what the case is worth? Kevin Flesh understands the way the jury thinks. Call now for a free consultation, 303-806-8886.
When it comes to caring for your pet, you want a veterinary team you can trust, and that's exactly what you'll find at Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center. Their compassionate and experienced team offers a full range of services to keep your pets healthy at every stage of life. From comprehensive wellness exams and vaccinations to advanced diagnostics, dental care, and surgery, Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center is equipped to handle all of your pet's medical needs. They also provide digital x-rays, in-house lab testing, parasite prevention, microchipping, and personalized treatment plans designed specifically for your dog or cat. Whether your pet needs routine preventative care or specialized medical attention, the team at Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center is dedicated to providing the highest level of care in a warm and welcoming environment. Don't forget, Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center also offers grooming, boarding, and puppy training. Call today to schedule an appointment or learn more about their services at LoneTreeVet.com. Call 303-708-8050. That's 303-708-8050. Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center. It's the place where my pets go.
This is KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Again, my name is Scott Watley. We appreciate you being with us. All right, we've given you a lot of facts today. Hey, you could be running out. Let's talk about the doom and gloom. You could run out of water. And you know what? That water you're going to run out of is still not good for you. But Water Pros can help you. 303-862-5554. Paul, let's talk about some systems. And again, I know we do it from time to time, but let's run through what the water test looks like.
So before we do that, I want to offer solutions. So everybody that's on well water, I used to be not a fan of cisterns. Okay. But now I see the light at the end of the tunnel where, you put a system in to pre-treat the water. And so the water that goes into the cistern is treated. It's clean. But if you're on well water, I really consider you to think about having your reserve capacity. So what that means is if you get a 500 gallons of storage and the water goes through the treatment system and then into the cistern, that gives you 500 gallons. So now what you're doing, your well, basically you allow your well to slowly fill and replenish the 500 gallons instead of being used all at once. So then you're not taxing the well fully, which then it's preventative maintenance in a sense, because then if you preserve your aquifer or your well and where the water that feeds your aquifer, you preserve that, you're going to preserve your pump because you're not going to force your pump to pump all that mud and gunk. And, you're not going to run your water table so low to get to that point.
Right.
So we offer that solution. It's a case-by-case basis based upon, because then you have to have an external delivery pump.
Okay.
So then the external delivery pump takes over. In some cases, the external delivery pump gives you better water pressure than what the well pump does. I encourage everybody to think about that. We also have a 5-stage reverse osmosis that's specifically designed for well water. And the reason why that is because we use 2 carbon pre-filters before it gets to the membrane. Allow the 2 carbon pre-filters, if you don't want to do water softening or water filtration, allow those 2 carbon pre-filters to absorb the calcium and iron content before it gets to that membrane. Those 2 carbon pre-filters don't remove hardness, but what happens is, as the water flow slows, the calcium is going to oxidize around the carbon. So let the carbon be the sacrificial lamb to get beat up by the hardness instead of the reverse osmosis membrane. So, a 5-stage reverse osmosis, you're looking about, $1,600 installed.
Okay.
We have a standard 3-stage reverse osmosis. The standard base 3-stage, you're looking about $1,100 installed. We do have a modern, more efficient 3-stage RO. We call that the Synergy Twist. That we're probably about $1,400 installed.
Okay. And so it just depends on their needs. And again, you go in, you lay out what you feel like they need.
The water test. So I was talking to a guy yesterday. He has 24 grains of hardness. He has a single tank softener. He has an old Maytag, I think it is, and he's bleeding 6 grains of hardness. And I explained to him that when you're in water that's 24 grains hard, a single tank system has a hard time keeping up because you're using the same dirty water to backwash.
Mm-hmm.
So in a single tank system on extremely hard water, you have to have that thing backwash often to help offset the fact that you're using dirty water. Now, municipal water that's under 24 grains, a single tank system with an extra regeneration per month, like with you, it can keep up and you get reliable use out of it.
Sure.
But when you get extremely hard water, then you really want to think about putting in a dual tank softener because you'll use less water, use less salt, because a dual tank softener can take soft water from one tank to back flush the other. That's the reason for the test. Not every area is uniform. Highlands Ranch is really hard water, but you got 3 different hardness zones in Highlands Ranch. From Quebec all the way down to, it used to be Lucent Boulevard, but what is that now?
They changed that to that young man.
Yeah.
Costilla Way or
something like that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Now you go to Santa Fe and, you head south, Sterling Ranch. I mean, the building is just unbelievable.
God. It's exploded out there, literally.
So, and then, we mentioned Commerce City Reunion. That's extremely hard water. On a side note, Commerce City Reunion spent over $1 billion in filtration media from Germany that was supposed to, give them, soft water. They sent a letter out to everybody. They passed sales tax. I think they bumped the sales tax to 8.9 or 9% to help pay for that. Well, that media, it doesn't work. The water hardness is just as bad as it was from the very beginning of the development of Commerce City Reunion. Wasted taxpayer dollars. So, we put in, filtration systems that are based on usage, need, and then the water quality. So we have the Matrix. The Matrix is on sale, $41.95 for our whole house. That's a multimedia system that would take out the forever chemicals, the chlorine, and give you soft water. I also recommend people think about adding an ultraviolet light, for the UV because of what we found out with our research that there's unregulated bacteria and fungus. I have a friend that just had surgery, and believe it or not, they did some sort of test, and at the surgical site, he has fungus. He has an infection.
Wow.
How do you get a fungus inside your body? It had to come from the hospital. I mean, how does that happen internally?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they got to, he has to get, what do they call that, an infectious disease specialist, get involved and see what kind of, issue there. But what scares me is that with the research we do, you have all this, bacteria that's becoming antibiotic resistant. And now you have a fungus that's antibiotic resistant, and then we let out today, we have sharks in the ocean.
That's crazy.
It's
insane.
It's contaminated. That means that what it means is that this is a global. What do you call this? A pandemic? What do you call this? Right? When you have a global issue like this.
Pretty much.
Right. This is worse. So, last thing, just recap real quick. All right, remember the COVID virus spread like a monster. Everybody was in home. They shut everything down. We had masks on if we went anywhere, and the virus still spread like wildfire, right?
Right.
Okay, because it spread through the drinking water. That's why we need to, add a reverse osmosis. Viruses and, colds, I'm convinced, spread through the drinking water, which means they're also resistant to the chlorine disinfectant.
Right. Paul the Waterman, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Always a privilege to have you. Give them a call, 303-862-5554. Get some cool, clean water in your home now. And you can do it, 303-862-5554. Ask for your haystack help, a Water Pros special for listening to the show. Paul will take great care of you. So thanks for being with us. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Leave it right here on KLZ 560.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Crawford Broadcasting, the station, management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.